Devin and Morgana have been celebrating midlife love by getting married 100 times in 100 countries. They believe grown-up love gets better and more fun, especially for women. Everyone's smarter, wiser. Men are more relationship ready. And if they're not, it's obvious. Forget anything you were told about being too old or too late for love and adventure. Instead, get fresh new tips on dating, relating, and travel to exotic destinations. And best of all, call in for personal guidance, creating crazy, sexy midlife love in your life.
And hello, welcome to Crazy Sexy Midlife Love. My name is Morgana and I'm with my husband, Devin. You can say something, Devin.
Oh, well, that's so this is my word in edgewise, and we're here with another live episode, which we haven't done in a little while, just because of a variety of different things. So here we are.
Yeah.
Here we are again.
Well, yeah, I think it's been a month. We were in Mexico. I usually don't talk much about my professional life, but I've been a business and life coach for 27 years. I've really been like the mentor to many of the big name coaches in business and life and in the whole professional personal development industry. And one of my favorite things to do is to take a handful of women on a really deep, intensive, small coaching retreat. I love to cultivate and support world-changing women leaders. And I usually do this in Bali once, occasionally twice a year. I call it my ultimate money goddess experience, because we start by changing relationship with money. Because when you heal the rift between heart, spirit, and money, it frees you up to do the things you really want to do, save the world in the way you want to save the world, when money is not the enemy, but is your partner who shares your values. So I usually do this in Bali. And because of the pandemic, Bali was sort of closed this year. Like, yeah, sure, there were ways to get around it. And I really, really miss the people I know in Bali, the people who run the resort where I host my retreat, my driver, it's just the people that I go to and the restaurants, and the people are so beautiful and it's so relational. And I also really wanted to respect that the country is closing its borders for its own safety. And I don't want to mess with that. So I've had this fantasy of doing my retreat in San Miguel de Allende since I think our first trip in 2017. They have a lot in common, where San Miguel de Allende is called, I think they call it the corazon, the heart of Mexico. And it's smack in the center. And it's like this nexus of artistic and spiritual energy. It's on a volcano. So it has like this sort of feeling of a vortex. And Bali is so much like that. They talk about Bali medicine, that there's just this energy that brings up your stuff. And I always have my retreats near Ubud, which is also the center of the island and described to be the artistic and spiritual heart of the country. So there's parallels, and then it's totally different. So Devin and I hopped on a plane and we went to San Miguel a couple weeks ago, had the retreat. I love the women. The real reason I do the retreat is I connect so deeply with the women that I just kind of never get over it. And I'm like, the crazy ex-girlfriend coach who just like misses them. And then I have to do another retreat to get over the last group. This group really, I never know who's going to be in the group, but I always know I get the perfect group. And sometimes it's 9 women and sometimes it's 3. And it always makes sense why I get the women I get each time. This was a very, very challenging retreat. And Devin and I flew to San Miguel. So warning alert, what's ahead? In this episode, we're going to be talking about just the mess of when you plan everything and then things happen that you can't plan for. And we're also going to be talking about magic. So in the second half, we're going to be really specifically talking about magic and manifestation and sacredness and intention. So first, we're going to do all the messy stuff, all the ranting and talking about travel, because like the point of having travel disasters is then you get to talk about it for the rest of your life. And it becomes very amusing. Haha, just not in the moment. So yikes, Devin and I went to San Miguel in June, like 3 months ago, to prepare for the retreat, find out what's going on in Mexico and San Miguel related to COVID and the pandemic and masks and vaccines and what the rules are and is it safe and all that kind of stuff, figuring it out for the women, where to get tested, all that kind of stuff. And also to just double check the hotel that I really had in my heart for several years, because it's just so beautiful and I love the location. And I met with, the front desk, and I reviewed all the rooms and what we were going to need, and, when we were going to have massages and how we were going to handle breakfast and all of it, who gets what room, right? Seems like we're ready to go. And then we arrive. Devin, would you like to take over?
No, I thought you were just going to talk. That said, travel is very closely related to the word travail.
Travail means?
I don't remember, but it's an it's like aggravation. There's like going to be some aggravation, and this is what happens sometimes with travel. Like, I'm probably not going to talk much this episode, and I'm sort of fine with that. But I do remember when I was sort of on my first, rucksacking trip. Like, I had already been to Mexico a number of times and Canada and done some traveling, but this was sort of like, okay, I'm backpacking for months on end in Europe, which is what I did. And so before I left, I did all this planning. I figured, okay, well, Paris and a lot of these countries, it'll be easy to figure it out. But I wanted to go where sort of like the wall had just come down. And so, I'm part Polish. Actually, I'm like Russian. It's very complicated because it was like my grandparents were born in a region where they kept moving borders. Like Germany took over, and then Russia took over from them, and then Poland moved back in, and they kept alternating. So I'm some sort of a combination of either Polish or Russian or Ukrainian or German. It's who knows? But so I learned a smattering of Polish. I went there. I had like a pen pal, and I go to Poland, and this is after I had met this girl, Morgana. Cover your ears. I met a girl in the Czech Republic. We started a little love affair. She was a beautiful young girl. And so, but when I left there, it was like everything was so good in the Czech Republic. Like if there was one less brownie at the bakery, I came in just in time. There was one last seat on the bus, I got the seat. It was that kind of, like, everything went well. And then I went to Poland with all of these expectations and high hopes of all of this wonderfulness that was going to take place. And everything I touched turned to mud. Like everything was a disaster. I got jumped by a Russian guy. This was after all the gypsy kids were like, it was just, there were so many problems. Like every single thing I did in Poland was just like, what a mess. So I got into a fight in the Central Dvorznik something, the central train station in Warsaw and Warsaw. And quite literally, as I'm leaving, the only way for me to leave was like I was locked into this kind of quasi youth hostel. And I ended up it was literally like, for me to leave the country, I had to get on this train at 4:00 in the morning in Krakow. And this, oh my God. So I'm looking out of this window, like I can't go through the front door. I'm knocking on doors. Everybody's asleep. Nobody's waking up, and I don't know how to get out of this place. And so, but I have to leave Poland because I'm crazy. And so I end up like literally throwing my backpack and everything I own out of a window in Krakow, 3:00 in the morning, because I have to get to this train station. And I'm thinking, I'll throw the backpack out the window. If it looks like it lands hard, I won't jump. So I throw the backpack out the window. And then I think, I've just thrown out everything I own into the street. So I jump out of the window from the second floor.
Oh, dear.
Of this building. And of course I land weird and hurt my ankle. But then I realize I've landed in, like it looked like the street, but then it turns out I landed in this area that was barbed wired.
Oh, yeah.
So now I'm climbing over a barbed wire fence. And so now I'm bleeding and limping, trying to escape Poland, but nothing nothing major happened.
And this is like 1990 something, not 1930 something.
No, this is not 1930. So it's not like this is the worst time to be in Poland. It was just not where like everything was great in Czech Republic and now I'm in Poland and everything was just a mess. It really was.
Yeah.
From the moment I arrived to the moment I left. So I go through all this. I get on the train and, I meet a guy whose father hadn't been back to Poland. He was a Polish soldier and he hadn't been back to Poland at the time, it was like 45 years. And he was still having nightmares and all this stuff, really horrible stuff. So there was a serious side on top of me being a nincompoop. It was just a very intense trip across the board. And I ran from Poland with my smattering of 1,000 words that it took a long time to learn. But so I come back months and months and months later. And when I talk to just, my friends, like we'd go out and we'd have dinner and they'd say, so how was Europe? I would launch into stories about Poland.
You launched into stories about Poland in Mexico.
I've launched into many, many stories about Poland over many, many, many years. And so this was sort of that kind of like where everything just sort of.
Not everything.
No, not everything.
Okay.
The women were fantastic.
The women were fantastic. The restaurants were perfect. Our balloon ride was spectacular. And especially since 3 of the 4 of us were terrified of heights. And we loved it anyway, and we landed safely. I mean, all of it was wonderful except for the hotel.
That should be nameless.
I'm so mad at them. I'm going back and forth on that.
Okay.
So we had all the rooms arranged. None of the women were put into the rooms that we had arranged. And I'm doing this high-end luxury, beautiful experience of a retreat. It's called Money Goddess. So I want them to have beauty and romance and bathtubs and views. And I had picked out the rooms for them, and they're put in these little dark, plain rooms with just not the right rooms, not the rooms that I purchased so many months ago. No bathtubs, no beauty. And that was just the beginning. And over the course of a week, let's see we got them into the right rooms, and then things were leaking, like raining, everywhere.
You had to go literally to the bathroom with an umbrella.
Over your head. That was the nicest suite. That was the case in the nicest suite. You needed an umbrella over your head if you needed to use the bathroom when it was raining. It was just insane. I rented the villa that would have the kitchen because the hotel had decided, we're no longer going to offer breakfast. So we were going to offer breakfast, and then we arrive. And by the way, we had stayed at this hotel before, so we had certain expectations, and they had removed every pot and pan, every fork, spoon, cup. When I opened the coffee pot, it had like a month of mold spilling out, and we just had to beg for pots and pans.
Right. No, when we finally got the pots and pans, none of them were clean.
They were dirty.
Like somebody
crusty.
Literally like, I've just made breakfast, here you go. But they waited 12 hours first for everything to
get hard.
And so you sent that, and like all the Like I'm going through the spoons, like we're trying to scramble around.
Crusty.
Yeah.
No
and no soap.
sponge, no soap.
So I was washing with like a rag and shampoo. So
so unnecessary.
it was really very quickly super deluxe cartoonish.
Yeah, one of the women doesn't have a stopper for her bathtub. So she, alerts the front desk and they just say, oh, well, we don't have one. Like it only takes $1 to get a stopper for the bathtub. Or when the shower was filling up and not draining, you love to tell that story.
I don't know if I love to tell this story. So my father was a plumber.
Yeah.
And he never wanted me to be a plumber. So I don't know tons about plumbing, but I know some things. So this is conceivably a nice hotel.
It used to be.
And so there had been so many problems up to this problem. I mean, for everybody, like there was constant, so I was dealing with the hotel, or we had a guy that was dealing with the hotel constantly. And so there was this point where I go, we've had like an hour and a half where there's no
drama,
there's no problem, there's no issues, there's no anything. And I'm taking a shower and it immediately starts filling up. So I know that there's a clog in there, but I take it right. So I take a quick shower and I say, hey, listen.
Cold water.
No, but I left the hot water on for like a long time.
I left the hot water on and it completely filled the tub and it was still cold.
Right. Okay. So mine was hot. Mine was hot and it immediately fills up.
Yeah.
And so I like literally get in touch with, hey, listen, we've had so many problems. I don't even want my wife to know about this. So how about you just take care of this clog right now? So it'll be, so no one will know, listen, it's just enough. And they're like, oh, that's great. We've got our maintenance expert here right now. They're coming over right now. And so this woman comes in with a duffel bag and I'm like, great. She's got the tools and she pulls out a wire hanger, that's been unrolled and she's like, twisted it about and it's 18 inches long, whatever, right? And so I already know that there's no way she's going to touch that clog with that wire hanger. I know it. It's just not going to happen because the tub, it just filled up too quickly. I knew that clog has been there for a long time. Nobody's touched it. And so she's there with the wire hanger and I'm just like, okay, I'm leaving because there's nothing to say. I can't say, go buy a snake. It costs like $12. I own one. I have snaked out our own drains. And she's got the wire hanger. And this is a nice place. I guarantee you, if
it
you
is
stay
in the most expensive part of town.
Yeah, it is.
The most beautiful, physically beautiful hotel that I have found in San Miguel.
Yeah, it's a beautiful place.
New owners, new management,
and
it's baffling. It's baffling.
It was baffling. So anyway, I'm leaving knowing for a fact that she's not going to fix the clog because she can't. It's nothing personal. I just know that she doesn't have the tool, like maybe in some recess in someone's brain, it's like, well, a coat hanger costs less than a plumber. So we'll just go with the coat hanger.
And you can't blame her or any of the people who work there. It's not them. It's management.
Oh yeah, because somebody said, there's a clog there. Because I guarantee you, it wasn't us who just alerted them for the very first time ever.
Right.
You have this clog that's just probably, Anyway, so
and they're letting their property be damaged with the untreated leaks and nonsense, but they're spending their money ripping out these.
Oh, they took out all the bathtubs.
All these beautiful Mexican tile bathtubs. That's where they're spending their money, not fixing the leaks that are,
And this was like the end of the rainy season.
Yeah.
So it's been leaking on everybody for months and months.
Yeah. So, but the good news is, I had a small group, hallelujah. And they said, and they were less upset than I was. They were like, look, we came here for you, they said to me. And they loved the beauty and they loved San Miguel and they loved the food and the coaching worked. So, ultimately it was a success, but the experience of just, struggling with the hotel like that it was unnecessary and just
Yeah,
made the whole thing much harder than it had to be.
yeah, there was no coffee and no water and no spoons, like all the spoons that
We're
showed up.
plastic. We're our
Well,
plastic.
no, the plastic spoons. I ran like at
You
7
brought
a.m.
us from Starbucks.
Right, like a mile away. Like I sprinted to have coffee
Thank you.
and spoons.
Thank you.
Yeah, and like they gave us 6 spoons or 6 forks.
No knives, no spoons,
No,
no
which is
bowls.
like nothing. But they got the 6 forks that were dirty, and like 2 of them, like there was no way you could get
You
clean.
couldn't get the stuff off.
Like
no.
I couldn't give this on the high end retreat, but here's the butter knife coming from Starbucks, the white plastic serrated edge knife.
Oh,
So,
dear
and I
Lord.
mean, still we're leaving. Oh, right. And so one night, one of the women was crawling into bed.
Oh,
And this is after like so many ridiculous things have happened. Like we're to the point where the hotel management was literally meeting with me. Like I've met all the key people and they're walking me from room to room because there's no hot water in any of the rooms.
and our contact who speaks English and works for the hotels,
Yeah.
I'm comforting him because he's crying because he's so ashamed
Right.
by how the management is behaving,
Yeah, no, it was unbelievable. And then
Yeah.
a woman is going to sleep and up jumps on the bed a scorpion. So, I mean, it was just like, oh my gosh, what are you? I mean, fortunately, somebody from the hotel said, oh, it's not, we'll fish out the scorpion on your behalf. It was like day after day, little fires.
So we moved her to another room because she just didn't want to sleep in that bed again. And I couldn't blame her.
Right.
Even though at a certain point, it just piles on so much. It was really specifically this hotel. And then there was more drama on the flight home. And then when first I couldn't get a boarding pass. Then when I get to the gate, they just rifled through everything I owned in all my luggage for like an hour. And then when we got home, all of our cats had escaped.
Oh yeah, no, that was such a bad moment. So we have used sort of like a friend of mine, her young daughter, who's a lovely young lady who'd been coming by, and it was, by the way, it was not from, just to be very clear, I didn't say to her, nobody said to her, come by every single day and check windows and doors and all that other stuff. But while we're away, there's an earthquake, like a 4.4 Richter scale.
Very, very close.
Right, very close to where we live. And so I get in, and there's the one unhappy cat who's always unhappy, waiting, my cat, unhappily waiting for us, and is meowing incessantly. And I'm walking from room to room, and I realize, well, where's the other 4 cats? And by the way, I have made many a joke of like, well, what are you going to do with the cats when you leave? Oh, I open the front door and I say, be free, be free, cats.
Yeah.
And so I did, like I say that jokingly, but so all of a sudden I'm walking around the house and I realize, oh, there's no other cats here. And this is not good. And then I get to, and the cat is following me, meowing unhappily. And I go upstairs to like the room, like where the food is and all that other stuff. And I notice the window is not wide open, but it's open. Like it's cat-sized open.
Enough for the cats to get out of a second-story window, jump onto the pergola,
and run away
over, to either the fence or the tree and escape.
Yeah. And so this did not, like, I was like,
oh,
okay, cat fanciers, this was not a good moment. And then, of course, I had to break the news to my lovely wife, who was already like attempting to decompress. And it's like 1 o'clock in the morning at this point in time. It's like 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning.
Although
of a
very uncomfortable flight where all the lavatories were either broken or really, really gross.
Right. There was all of that too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I was already
three quarters
Yeah.
there. And she's like, honey, I have a
It's
strong
just-
suspicion that the cats have left.
It was too much.
Yeah. It was
At that point, I just have to start grasping at planets that I can blame, because when it's all hitting that much, it's just at a certain moment, it just feels personal.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it didn't go over well. I probably wasn't, I didn't even know what to do really as a comfort. I tried.
You
tried.
did.
I
You
did try,
Thank
but
you for that.
it was tough. So just to get to the end of the thing is that we found one cat hiding like at 2:30 in the morning. Then two more cats at like 5 or 6 a.m.
I learned that the two boy stray cats, the 3 of the cats are just stray cats that I groomed and seduced and captured and castrated and have kept captive in the house.
So that's why clearly they want to come back.
Yeah, so they were back like that early the next morning when I just put out some food and sat.
And I did think that because we have this one kitten cat that likes me, that I'm the favorite, at least I was up until a day ago. And that cat was like, I was literally like, okay, God, whatever you want. We got a couple of the cats back. It would be great to have this other kitten back, but it's, we're in your playpen. So I'm like, just like, okay, I don't know what to do. Like at that point, I had already driven around the block multiple times. I'm calling the cat's name, or at least what I think the cat's name is. She has a very complicated cat name.
Yeah.
So I am sharing, I'm telling the neighbors all, calling the cat name. And then the following afternoon, I saw the little cat's face.
Hungry, huh?
Well, ready had enough.
She'd had her adventure.
She had her adventure. So I pulled her inside and she purred for a half an hour straight. Followed me from room to room.
Well, that's the sweet thing is, these cats that's what did you do for your pandemic vacation or staycation at Captive at Home? Is I made friends with the cats in the neighborhood. The wild cats just would put out food every day, notice them prancing around with their, very unfixed baby making status. So then I would capture them, get them fixed. I would trauma bond with them during the recovery period. And then they became house cats, and they're very, very, very happy house cats who are all on my bed right now purring.
This is why and by the way, the conversation I remember having was, well, after we fixed the cat, we would let it go free. And my response was, that sounds reasonable. And then after the third cat was lured inside and like, okay.
But I really intended to set her free.
I've come up with a very complicated name that the Etruscans would give one of their gods from the year 300 AD.
Lord of Light?
Yeah, something like
that. So we have a lot of cats, and
they're back.
Yeah.
Which
Devin,
is a blessing,
which is
and
great.
not.
So you don't have to get rid of any of your guitars.
Okay, well, that was not happening.
For every cat that I acquired, Devin gets 2 more guitars. Although I think 5 were maxed. This whole show has really been the crazy part of Crazy Sexy Midlife Love. I mean, we usually talk about relationships or we interview somebody, but this is just life. But I will say, and this is going to be a very awkward segue, but it's just kind of
are we segueing?
I think we are. And
have we had enough?
Just let me, okay?
Okay, I'll be curious.
Trust the process. So even with all that craziness, it's being with the right person really just changes everything. And what I did differently this year with my retreat, besides having it in Mexico, besides having a balloon ride, and apparently an uninvited scorpion, and cold water and broken fans and like just craziness there, but also fabulous restaurants and art walks and this perfect group of women. I brought Devin, and Devin came with me to my Money Goddess retreat in May 2016. And we had a wedding on the first day of the retreat. And then I booted him off the island, sent him to the airport. Really stupid of me, honestly. And I'm still apologizing to you for it, because I should have
not.
I am. I did when I was in Mexico. I regret it. I still regret it. I should have just said, okay, go somewhere else and enjoy Bali for a week, and I'll see you Friday. But instead, I sent him back to the US, which was really foolish because, Bali's a big island.
I had to sleep in the airport in Taiwan.
Oh,
for like 12 hours.
I've done that. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's a
I'm
drag.
sorry. That must have been KLM airline or okay. Well, anyway, so EVA. It was EVA airline.
Well, it wasn't EVA's fault.
No, that's just the flight.
Although
back.
I like that. Airline.
I love that airline. So Devin has been around for other retreats that I've done, especially when I've done them in Long Beach, and I've seen like how clients respond to him, mostly women, but women and men for some retreats. And so I wanted him with me for this one. He speaks Spanish. He cooks a great breakfast.
True.
Until he comes down with a fever and has to move to an Airbnb.
I probably wouldn't have. That was the other thing. I was going to make breakfast, but then all of a sudden I started getting sweaty, and I was just like, in the middle of COVID, do you risk it? No.
So we didn't. We tested negative, but it was scary.
So I waited a few days to see if it would develop. It didn't. Nothing. But
something that we did do, especially when you have women leaders of different relationship status, but it's really nice to have like just a great, supportive, strong guy who likes women, isn't threatened by women. And Devin has this capacity to just make people feel really safe, make women feel really safe. And if you've been watching the show for a while, you may have noticed that at times we've really talked a lot about magic. Sometimes, different school, and when we're talking magic, we're not talking parlor trips, Vegas magician kind of stuff. We're talking about manifestation, which Devin and I both do in our different ways, and are both really well known for magic and manifestation. And I wanted to bring Devin's flavor into it. Like they already were experiencing mind all week, but I wanted to give them something special that no group ever had before. So I asked Devin to lead a ritual and talk about magic. So I would like you to talk about magic, my love.
I don't even remember what I said. But that said, I think I talked about the notion of sacredness and the notion of intention, right?
Yeah, you started by giving a little bit about your background.
Do we need that? Do we need any of that? Anyway, so the long story short is it's something that I've studied Kabbalah with a K and Kabbalah with a Q for many, many, many years, and have some pretty cool lineage things going on, which I'm not going to go into now because it just seems to be like a bone of contention for people. So, my thing was Morgana has a very particular vibe that she does. I think it works great for her. And so I just come from a different kind of school and philosophy. And so sort of like, if I was going to talk about like the beginning things, well, what is it and what does it mean? And, when I talk about magic, I frequently talk about ritual, sort of like an extra effort thing that you do that, creates a particular kind of vibe that makes your life work a little bit better. And I would argue that reading the paper in the morning with coffee and your bran muffin is part of your ritual. It's a certain route that you think is the fastest way to get to work. It is the workflow that you've developed to be the most efficient person you can be.
I just had a thought because you're talking about intention. I spent a lot of effort talking with the weather in San Miguel before I got there because I was so worried about rain. It's rainy season. It looked like it was going to be raining every day.
All day long.
Right.
Every day.
I have had for decades a very fortuitous relationship with weather. Sometimes I jokingly call myself a weather witch. So I was talking with the weather for weeks before we got there. And I was focusing so much on the weather, which was exactly what we needed. It was sunny, but not too hot, and not raining when we needed it to not be rainy. We had the right weather that we needed the whole trip. The weather was incredibly cooperative, and thank you, weather. I'm very grateful to the San Miguel weather. We were able to safely go on our balloon ride, have the photo shoot, walk to all the restaurants that we wanted to go to. It just was super cooperative. And in my focus and my intention on the weather, I completely wasn't like talking to the hotel gods. So it just occurred to me now, mea culpa, mea culpa. Now I know moving forward.
Right. So
go ahead.
So intention is the kind of stuff that we do all the time. And a lot of that stuff becomes like our own individual rituals. In religion, you see it constantly. So in other words, if you've been to any kind of a church, there's always certain kinds of things that, at certain days or certain times of day, that there are certain things that that are going to happen. And when those things happen, they're going to happen in a very routine way. Part of the reason why that is that I would argue is that it's really important to not only have intention, but to make those things sacred. In other words, if you were to go to a church, a Catholic church as an example, you're going to see a lot of the parishioners maybe wearing a certain color sweater, maybe a certain style of dress. They may be dressed in their Sunday best to sort of like, hey, I'm doing this consciously to honor the importance of this relationship that I'm developing with the universe, however I define it. The person who's leading it may, in all likelihood, will perhaps have a style of dress. There might be certain music that's very specific for that thing. There might be incense, there might be candles, there might be, all of these different kinds of things. And all of those things are intended to sort of build up the intention and make the thing that we're doing sacred. And when I say sacred, we're saving this thing for just this moment. In other words, the Sunday best is for Sunday. Right? That's like the sacred day. In other words, if you're wearing tefillin, it's like part of the Jewish religion. There's all these kinds of little things that we do that are like, this is the sacred thing. I don't like break this covenant, so to speak. It's the kinds of rules that we have within a love relationship. In other words, this is my partner and she is sacred for me. So that means I treat her well. I'm on her team, even when she annoys me. Like all of those kinds of things, the sacredness is like, this is the top priority. And so that's where I keep it. And of course, sacredness is also frequently our children and our pet and those around us whom we absolutely love. And so let's say I want to get a better job. I want to get a better career. I want to earn a little bit more money. I have all of these things. So what I do is I start working on developing something where I put intention with clarity of thought, right? Ideas. And then I do things that are sacred within a particular confine that may lead to this thing that I want. So I'm just talking off the top of my head. It may be I'm going to wear the color green because green dollars are something that is good, right? But I'm only going to wear that green outfit when I'm thinking about money. That's not the greatest example in the whole universe. It's not my favorite. Like I wouldn't do that. But the idea.
But green is life and growth.
Oh, sure. No, without question. There are certain ways that you may use color. But my point is, it may be music. It may be, it may be all of these things like combined, and then taking sort of like, this is what I want to accomplish. And by the way, this is a third thing that has, outside of sort of like intention and sacredness, is sort of like, am I doing it solely for me? If it's solely for me, it's probably not going to work out. In other words, like, I want to be seen as the greatest guy on the planet. That's probably a terrible thing to try to make sacred. You could do it. She could do it, but not me.
You are the greatest man on the
I
planet.
am, but patting myself on the back as part of the sacred thing. So you have to just be conscious of your motivation of why you want to, why do you want a new career? Well, maybe the new career may help a lot of people, right? You may put yourself in a position where you can genuinely be useful. And I think that is powerful. What I don't necessarily think is powerful is like, Larry's getting paid more than me and Larry's a jerk, so I need to make more money than Larry, is a terrible way of worrying about intention and sacredness. So anyway, that's kind of what I talked about. It was a much more long, involved sort of thing, but that's kind of like the overall envelope. So if you are interested in magic with the K, then, that would probably be a good starting point to think about. How do you make things sacred? In other words, you make them a top priority, and then you start thinking about what your intentions for your life are in a real way.
I love what you said about it not just being for ourselves. I find that the more we tie things into legacy, making the world win-win, the less resistance that at least I experience in making things happen. And I'm also thinking, since, we talk a lot about love, so how would you cast a love spell?
Oh, I probably wouldn't. It depends. In other words, like if you were to watch a romantic comedy, casting a love spell would have some weird pink elixir, and it would probably be like, I need that girl to love me, and then if she loves me, it'll be great. All my problems will go away. That is like not the love spell. It might be.
Okay. Well, I just want to say that I tried something like that when I was in my 20s, and my experience is, instead of having the effect that I wanted it to have on the other person, it made me feel even more tied to my obsession with him. And
it's terrible.
My mother used to talk about the rule of three, that whatever you send out is going to rebound threefold. So
I don't know.
Well, that's more of a Wiccan thing than the crowd that you run with.
Right.
But I like that rule, because it means you wish for other people things that you would want for yourself, even people who you find threatening or difficult. Like if I am scared of somebody and they pose a threat, I've done this a number of times with banishing spells, I wish them love and health and the happiness that they seek far away from me. But I wish them, because I believe that people who feel loved and feel happy and are sane do good and will not be a problem to me. So right. I wish them, sanity and love and happiness and fulfillment, so that they will not be an issue for me. But when I cast a love spell, oh, make so-and-so love me, what it did was my experience of it was it made me feel even more kind of enslaved to my own passion. So I would never recommend that kind of a love spell, because I think that, it's what my mother would call black magic, because it's manipulative. It doesn't really take into account what is best for the other person and their free will. So, but you did do a love spell in your way.
Well, so mine was different. I wouldn't like, my love spell was mostly like, okay, I'm ready for love. So what do I want? And I'd actually, for those who are familiar with the show, at some point they'll say, oh, go download Devin's ebook, Women Are Smarter Than Men. And it's sort of a spell. And really what I recommend in there is, first off,
And where do they get that ebook?
I don't know.
CrazySexyMidlifelove.com.
Okay, do that. So, and so in there, I really talk about like, well, what do you want? And why do you want it? Like, get some clarity on, a lot of people, I think, at least a lot of like clients that I've had that are single, frequently the conversation we end up having is, okay, so you want to have love in your life. Well, why? I mean, why now? Why do you want to have a partner in your life? What good will that do? And, I'll get a variety of answers, but it's frequently like when we start digging, well, I want a partner in my life so I can feel like I'm worthy. Well, that's not going to work out. You're probably going to get somebody who doesn't think you're worthy until you start kind of acting in ways where you start developing your confidence that is based upon something that in fact is worthy. Now that all said, I would say everybody's worthy. Matter of fact, you see all kinds of people that are sort of like,
marginal.
Well, yeah, something like that. Or people are just like doing whatever they're doing. They're not looking to become sort of like a spiritual paragon. They're not looking to, develop themselves in one particular direction or another. They're just doing whatever they're doing, and that's fine. I'm just saying that frequently I come across people who are pretty great, but are looking for love as a means of validation. So they're hoping to not necessarily, I mean, yes, they want to manipulate the person that they have their attraction for, but really what they want to be is manipulated by the person who they're attracted to, and have that person say, oh, you're the greatest person in the whole world. And isn't that charming, right? That would fill my heart with love, knowing that this great person loved me, whether I deserved it or not.
Excuse me.
Bless you, or salute. One more time. Bless you some more. So anyway, make a list of why do you want love in your life? Why do you want to be in a partnership? And it's not merely just because you're cute and that person over there is also cute, so you should be cute together. I mean, that's fine. I think that's a fling.
Why did you want partnership?
Because I thought I would go further in my life with a good partner, somebody who would mirror me, some of my imperfections, and give me more insight to who it is that I am. But that's the kind of, that's what I want, right? And so I thought you could go further by doing that. And it was also, being in a partnership with me allows me to be selfless for somebody else. Like, yes, you can do that as a father, but you can even do that more so with sort of like a romantic partner. And so the more service I am, the better I feel about the world and myself. And so that all those things are kind of molded in together. So all that said, go make a list of why you want to be in a relationship. And then once you know what that is, and you're like, ooh, okay, this is why I want it, then it becomes, all right, well, what do you want? Make a list of that, of the kind of person that you think you would help make you thrive. Right. And I'm giving you all the shortcuts, but the ebook is really short too. And it goes into more specifics.
And it's free. And it's at CrazySexyMidlifelove.com.
Yeah. So do that, and do it right now. Don't waste your time. Just go do it. But so you make that list of all the things that you want. And then you make a list of all the things that, like, if you see it is no good. Like, in other words, if you are into bad guys, right? You're into bad boys. Right. What turns you on is lots of tattoos and maybe violent. And I hate to give that sort of impression for all tattooed people, because it's not true. But you know what I mean? Like, if you have like a picture in your head of what the motorcycle person is like, and, kind of scary bad guy kind of thing, and you like that, and it hasn't worked out for you, because I know some motorcycle people covered in tattoos who actually made really great romantic partners and who've been with their spouses for many, many, many moons. But if that's the kind of person you're always attracted to and it never works out, then it's time to do something different. So you start thinking about, well, what is the thing I don't want? If you are somebody who is a recovering crack addict, you probably don't want to have an active crack addict in your life. So you put that as like, I don't want that, right? So make the list of all things that you don't want. And once you have sort of like a really good list, put both lists away for an hour and then go look at them again, I don't know, 2 weeks later, and go through one by one. Say, do I really need this thing that I thought that I wanted? Will it really and truly make me thrive? And 2 weeks will give you a little bit of ways to look at it with fresh eyes. And so, maybe precisely what you need is that tattooed bad boy. But you have to start digging a little bit deeper, because maybe you're looking for sort of like the aesthetic of the bad boy, but really you need somebody who's going to be emotionally there for you when shit hits the fan and when times are difficult. Like, you're going to want somebody who really truly loves and cares for you, right? You want those things. So then you start going through these first two lists, because maybe you initially put down, I don't want that. I don't want a certain kind of characteristic. But maybe on second thought, all of a sudden you realize, well, maybe that's exactly what I need to, I don't know, keep me in line or keep me thriving or keep me, somebody who's going to call me out on my crap. I don't want that because I don't want to argue. Well, that's fine. But maybe you being called out on sort of like things where you can be improved is actually an incredibly useful tool. So maybe that thing that was on the no, I don't want that list, maybe needs to be exactly on your list. So you go through that list. And then once you have this great list of tall, dark, and handsome and former football star and, great conversationalist and sexy and all that stuff, you've made that great. Love that. So you've made that incredible list. Then you have to make a list. This is the hardest list of all of the 4 lists. The hardest list is, well, what are you bringing to the table? Great, tall, dark, handsome, great conversationalist, funny and smart and cares about you and loves you and all those kinds of things. What are you going to be doing to have him, her, or them, or those to align with you? Who's that going to be, right? Who are you coming to the table? Because if it's just like, I want to receive all this stuff and I just want to hang around and do the things that I normally do, that may not be enough to sustain a truly loving long-term relationship. So start really thinking about, okay, these are the things that I could reasonably and conceivably do for the long-term goal. And then once you have that, once you have that idea, like, okay, here's what I want, here's what I don't want, here's what's going to make me thrive, and here's what I'm going to do to make somebody else thrive, then you're like, okay, now I'm going to go date. And I don't care how you do that. Go say, be nice to somebody, and support them.
So when you were teaching magic, and we didn't focus on relationships, Devin actually created a really beautiful and specific ritual for my community, for this specific group. But when you were kind of introducing yourself, talking about your background, talking about magic, talking about your values, talking about sacred, I just sat there going, oh my God, I can't believe that I get this person. How lucky am I?
You are. You are so
over the moon.
Over the moon. You should be.
I am.
You should be. Because I'm a good egg.
You are a good egg.
Right.
I'm a very, very lucky, grateful, appreciative woman.
Oh my God, is this show ever going to end?
Pretty soon.
Oh, good. 2
Pretty
minutes.
soon.
We just got the high sign. Somebody's listening.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, so that's what you do. And by the way, although my ebook is geared toward women, I learned this from a woman, and it's something that I did when I started really kind of like Okay, well, who do I want to be within a relationship? What am I willing to give up? Because and this is true, like I speak to lots of married couples, like as clients and things like that. One of the things that's abundantly true, if you want to have sex with sex, right? No, yes, if you want sex too, but if you want a great relationship with sex, in all likelihood, there's going to be periods within your relationship where you are going to have to give more than you want to. You're just going to. If the rule is I'm only giving 50%, then you can almost certainly expect to not have long-term relationships, although you could still have sex as long as somebody's down for that, but they'll probably get bored with that after a while. So anyway, that's the other caveat, is just kind of realize that, there's just going to be days where you're going to have to carry the load, and that's what the commitment is. And again, I'm only referring to long-term relationships. I'm talking about sort of like bigger picture ideas. If you're just like, I want to date and have fun, you don't need anything I've said. Go date, have fun, go meet somebody, and enjoy your life.
Yeah, but I think that what's so delicious about being grown-ups, since I have always really, been searching for a real lasting relationship more than flings, I think it's good to get flings in your life so that when you meet your person, you can really appreciate your person. I love what you say about you have a choice. You can have one experience with 1,000 people or 1,000 experiences with one.
Which I only stole from another person.
Exactly.
And so we have 30 seconds left. What are we doing next?
Just so we talked about how crazy, chaotic travel can be, and awkwardly tied that into magic and manifestation.
Yeah, I was really not much of a segue, but thank you.
I thought I did pretty well.
Well,
And we'll be back next week at 5 p.m. We will be more on topic, focusing on relationship, love. Yes, I promise we will be. And maybe talking a bit more about travel and really some great places and resources and stuff like that. So
that all sounds good.
Yeah. And so just join us again, 5 p.m. Wednesday for Crazy Sexy Midlife Love. Head over to crazysexymidlifelove.com if you want to catch our first 11 weddings in 3 minutes.
Oh, yeah, that's a thing.
That was cute. And download Devin's ebook, Women Are Smarter Than Men, and Other Secrets Marriage-Minded Women Need to Know at Crazy Sexy Midlife Love. And we will see you in a week. Mwah! Check your beds for scorpions.
That was a useful tip.
Thank you for listening to Crazy Sexy Midlife Love. Please sign up to join our free love family at crazysexymidlifelove.com to get alerts to live shows, call in and ask questions, or just listen in. And ladies, don't forget to download Devin's free ebook, Women Are Smarter Than Men and Other Secrets Marriage-Minded Women Need to Know. Also available at crazysexymidlifelove.com.
Recording stop.